Hi there, you're so welcome. So this is a small video introduction to our next 10 days and the practice that we're going to be focusing on, as well as our breathing for these 10 days. The first 10 days, we were very focused on identifying and noticing judgment in our lives when we judge others, when we judge ourselves, and really trying to not judge as much. And it's a long-term practice, right? Certainly it's been incredibly transformational for me taking on the practice of judgment. I'm doing it a couple of years now, consciously and actively working and noticing when I'm judging. And it has made such a change in my life. And I know I have more work to do as we keep working on subtler levels. And so the practice that we're going to focus on for the next 10 days is a victim consciousness. And what does that mean, victim consciousness? And it's all the time our practices are working on how our unconscious momentum of our mind keeps rolling. And we're so much in our minds. Our breath practice helps us to develop a witness consciousness where we can see, oh, I'm not quite exactly my thought. There's a bit of me that's observing the thought. And so it's really important to remember in your 11 minutes of breathing, you're going to be thinking, right? Don't think that somehow you're failing if you're having lots of thoughts, but you are watching them. You're not jumping into them. I mean, sometimes in my practice, I'll think more during my meditation than when I'm not meditating, but I'm constantly, consciously trying to observe and notice, I'm thinking. And even though I think so much and I'm constantly coming back, I still have that little bit of increased clarity and peace from my practice. And so it's normal to still be thinking, but we're trying to be separate from our thoughts, to become the observer, to become aware of seeing and noticing. And so that skill we're building, then we're starting to translate it into practices that we apply in our daily life then. So the judgment and victim consciousness is another element of judgment. It's where in our inner narrative, in the stories we tell ourselves and the stories that we make around a situation, we place ourselves as a victim. And this again has been such a helpful practice for me in my life, that you have a scenario, okay, so you're quite busy, there's a lot of things you have to do, X, Y, Z, and there's these challenges in what you have to do. And that's acknowledging, yeah, okay, so I have all these things to do and it's going to be difficult because of X, Y, Z, and so this is what I need to do. It's the story, the victim consciousness that we place on top of that. It's like, and it's, it's fine for other people, but it's much harder for me because I have this and that. And, so-and-so has it much easier. And, I can't be expected because, I have, and it's that extra story that we place on it. So it doesn't mean that we can't acknowledge, right, this is challenging, right? I have a lot on my plate, right? I need to look at this and maybe I need to cut back something, or right, this is a lot. But it's not to put the victim consciousness onto it. It's an element of judgment because to be a victim, there has to be comparison, right? And so, as Krishnamurti always says, comparison diminishes me. And so the victim consciousness is a judgment, a comparison, and it's the exact opposite of a gratitude practice. So it's the exact opposite of feeling gratitude and abundance. And so absolutely acknowledging these are challenges. This is really hard. I'm really struggling. I'm not a victim. I'm also grateful. I also have so much to be thankful for, and not to fall into a victim consciousness. Work on it. Apply it to your own self and see how you find it. Okay, so over these 10 days, I'm also asking that you continue with your judgment. So each time I'm going to add another thing, each of the 10 days over these 40 days. And it's really about making our awareness of the unconscious momentum that drives so many of our thoughts, so many of our narratives, our inner constant voice, and to become more aware of them. And there's a couple of things to think of. I always like to think of it as like the seeds to a plant to a huge tree. So before this judgment, maybe it was a huge tree where you just went straight in there, and it was like there's maybe a particular person that you have judgment with, and it's just very familiar, and you just have all of those constant. And now that you're more aware of it, maybe once you notice, oh, I'm going into judgment, oh, that's my pattern, and so you come out of it. So you're no longer just flailing around in that big tree. You've cut the tree. And you stopped before you went into that rabbit hole of judgment. But that tree's been there quite a while, right? It's shed a lot of fruit. So there's a lot of seeds. And so they're going to keep coming up. So that's why it's a continuous practice, and maybe for a long time, but we don't have the big tree, right? Because we're aware, I'm not going in there. I'm not going to stick with all that judgment. And so now what we're dealing with is the small plants coming up, the seedlings. We can see, oh yeah, there's judgment. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to think that way. And oh, there's victim consciousness. And again, this could be a big tree at the moment. And once you cut it down, you're dealing with the seeds. And so it may go on for quite a while. Could be a couple of years or longer. But if we're aware of these ways of thinking, if we're first and foremost setting a strong habit of a daily practice of pranayama, of breathing, where we're building and developing that witness consciousness, then we use that power, that skill, that ability to train our minds, to guide our minds, and we start addressing some of the unconscious momentum, some of those thought patterns. I always like the analogy of the horse, wild horse, our minds, and we're holding on for dear life, and it's just going wherever, and we're just holding on, and we have no control. And slowly, and patiently, and with so much kindness, I cannot say it enough, with so much kindness, we gently train the horse a little bit. So maybe we're able to steer it a little bit. Maybe eventually we're able to slow it down a little bit. Maybe we're able to go where we want to go, and not just where the unconscious momentum is driving us all the time, and these patterns of thinking. So we have to be very kind with ourselves, right? We're just doing our best. And so keep doing the work. I have a lovely quote from my teacher. She says that things that drive us in our life are our habits. Habits get memorized in our unconscious mind. And so we're looking to create positive habits. And that starts with your sadhana, your daily practice, where you get on your mat and you focus and train your mind. If you manage to really tap in to the you within you, to access a little bit of peace, a bit of calm, then you will carry that to the rest of your day. And you can have more of a witness to your mind. So create this relationship with yourself, if you can, first thing in the morning. Your habits become your character, and your character becomes your destiny. And so I wish you all the best of luck. I was listening to Joe Wicks. He was talking to the Happy Pair the other day on their podcast. So another wonderful podcast, loads of lovely, inspiring people on it. And they were asking him about motivation. And I loved his response. He said, yeah, I struggle with motivation. We all struggle with motivation. He said, but I have discipline. And so he says, I'm just disciplined to do it. Even if I don't feel like doing it, I just do it. He said, I know I'm a better parent when I exercise. I know I feel better when I exercise. And so I'm disciplined. I've learned that lesson. So I do it. And he said, so now it's a habit. And so the discipline led to the habit. And now it's such a habit that I wouldn't dream of not exercising every day. That's what he says. And so it's not about motivation. Very often we don't feel like doing it, right? But it's about being disciplined, cultivating that habit. And that habit is going to build our character. And so you're all doing amazing. Absolutely no judgment of yourself if you've missed a day or here or there. No problem, right? This isn't a short path. This is deep, powerful, long-term transformation we're talking about. And so keep going, keep starting again, keep coming back. Find a breath that suits you. I encourage you to try to do one particular practice for 10 days. That doesn't matter. If you want to do different practice every day, that's no problem as well, right? For these 10 days, continue with noticing your judgment. Notice when you're judging yourself, when you're judging others, and then that wing of judgment that is victim consciousness. Become aware of when in your internal narrative, you're placing yourself as a victim, and it's almost inevitably in comparison to somebody else. And you just say, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm not a victim here, not a victim. There's the situation. I'm not applying that narrative to it. Okay? And blessings to you all. And thank you so much. It's wonderful being on this journey with you all.